This Shabbos, this weekend, there were about 1,200 women shluchos, the Rebbe's women emissaries around the world, who their husbands are home fending the fort, and they gather in this annual conference. I should also emphasize there is only 1,200 because the other 3,000-4,000 couldn't come because of COVID. Now there's one thing which we find exceptional by these women, by these shluchos: the care, the selfless devotion for the single individual adult child, wherever this Jew may be. There's a tremendous outpouring of love and care for one. Where does this devotion for the one single Jew come from? So let me share with you a story that actually a shliach himself said. A fellow by the name in Israel, Rav Yoav Arkush. And he tells the following story. This 10-year-old boy from a broken home used to fend for himself. He's arriving Yom Kippur night to shul, a big shul, and he's looking for a place where to sit down. None to be found. Thinking to himself, what am I going to do tomorrow? Stand a whole day, a whole Yom Kippur in this big, humongous shul? And he has an idea. Early, 2 hours before the services start, I'll get there and I'll find a chair. And so he did. The next morning, Yom Kippur in the morning, 2 hours before the service is supposed to start, he comes into the shul, empty. 10, 15 people sitting there. Chairs galore. I only need to choose one. Goes to one chair, there's a name. Belongs to so-and-so. Belongs to so-and-so. The entire shul, all sold out. Becoming desperate. But then he notices at the end of the shul, there's a few plastic chairs. No name on it. Nobody bought it. Sits down, takes possession of the seat, doesn't move, waits for the services to start. The shul is filled up, and he's happy he has a chair. But then suddenly, somebody comes over and says, Yeled, my boy, it's my place. I've been sitting here for 3 hours. Yeled, my little boy, it is my place. And this is said in a tone that he realizes he better get up. And this way, this child is wandering around the whole Yom Kippur, in the shul, outside of the shul, broken, alone. And he thinks to himself, and he's lifting his eyes to God, says, God, Ribbon Shalom, isn't there a place in the shul for a little boy? Isn't there a place for a little child in this humongous shul? Is there nobody that is looking after the needs of this little child? And like this, he's brokenhearted the entire Yom Kippur. A few days later, his mother, who is having very great difficulties, decided to send a letter to the Rebbe about all the challenges. Shortly after she gets a letter to check the mezuzahs of the house. She did. Now, it was terrible. Most of the mezuzahs weren't kosher, and one particular mezuzah where outside it says Shin Dalet Yud. Unfortunately, the Yud was missing. Just the word Shin Dalet. Frightening. She changed the mezuzahs. And things suddenly became much better. Decided she has to go to the Rebbe and thank the Rebbe for that. Her whole life turned around. Family helped her getting a ticket. She comes to the Rebbe. And she's arriving to the Rebbe on the Sunday of the Kiddush HaShluchim, where the Rebbe is giving out dollars. She walks in front of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe gives her $1. And she asks a bracha for her family. Bracha avur hayeladim, for the children. And the Rebbe gives her $1. And as she's leaving, the Rebbe gives her an additional $1. V'zeh avur ben, and this is for your son. And he says, by the way, I am this son. I am this boy. Could be that in the shul there is no place for this little boy. But in the Rebbe's heart, there is a place for every single Jew, and the Rebbe remembers and notices him and blesses him. This is where the power of the shluchos come from. And that's the work of Mashiach. Every single Jew will not be left behind. Good Shabbos.